February the 15th, the day after Valentine's Day. I imagine some people will rest easy now, some people by my left. Anyway, we'll talk about that later. Good morning and welcome to the Morning Brief right here on Channels Television. It's your perfect day starter. This morning, I just want to ask, how are you? How really are you? With the heat wave, the heat from the economy, the heat from security, how are you holding up? Your voice matters, you matter, and you have been heard. So perhaps, you guard, this is the best time to guard your mental health. Take a walk outside close to nature, because when you're closest to nature, you're closest to home. I am Bukola Koka, and I'm here with my very dependable men. Good morning, guys.
How many are we? You said someone is to your left. I don't see any other person aside me, and I'm sure you're not talking about me.
Yeah, kind of. You've been looking forward to Valentine's Day for
I look forward to
weeks,
every day.
Since the beginning of January.
No, I've looked forward to these days since the beginning of January.
Don't worry, I'm not going to ask you how your Valentine's Day went. It's none of our business.
It was work, a lot of work.
Yeah, a lot of work. Yeah.
Hey.
Right, Jeffrey?
Well, I don't know. I wanted him to respond to the allegations against him.
She didn't mention my name. That's why I'm looking for someone else.
I said to your left, buddy. Well, welcome to the program. Of course, I want to support what Bukola has said. Exactly how you hanging in there. It's quite important that let's not get carried away by the fact that it may be working for some people. That's why we use the word "we" a lot of the time, because in isolated cases, some people may not be feeling what others are feeling, but when we come together as a collective, things are not really working as they should work. But you must look for a way to find joy, to find some form of happiness, to find some form of excitement or the other, so that you don't get depressed, you don't lose your mind at the end of the day. So that's why we're saying, whatever it is that is legal that you can use to stay sane, please do it by all means necessary, so that we can have you at the end of the day. And when the country gets better, hopefully all of us will be here to celebrate. Welcome to the program. I'm Jeffrey Uzongo.
Well, I'm Kayode Okikulu. We have a big package for you. Lots of things to talk about, guys. Bukola.
Yes, indeed. Starting with the power situation, despite the trillions of dollars, I imagine, that government has spent on the power situation over the years, with many road maps to sustainable power initiatives, it seems like what we've had over the years has been merely a change in nomenclature from, the NEPA to Power Holding Company, and now to the privatization regime that we're under. Still, we experience power grid collapses. But with the proposal for the unbundling, state-by-state unbundling of the power sector, where will it lead us? That conversation is instructive, as we hope that it will be productive this morning. So that's on the turf as well.
And that's not all we'll be talking about today on the program. Besides the issue of power, we're also dealing with what I call fly on the wall heat wave. We didn't see it coming, but finally it's here. Well, I don't know whether the authorities will say that is what it is, but the way we feel right now, it feels like we're hitting around 39 degrees Celsius at the end of this, because even when you put water on your body, you'll begin to feel like, am I really touching water? The rest is left to your imagination as to how you want to make the situation or make sense of this particular situation. Well, we're bringing that conversation to the fore. What's really driving the level of heat we feel in Lagos and across the country? That is a conversation we want to have, and it's a good time for you to stay on the show, to be part of it, and maybe give us your perspective on all our social media platforms, as well as on our WhatsApp number.
Absolutely. Amidst all of these challenges, it's very easy to forget about personal care. So guess what? We're talking personal care on the show this morning. Yeah, I mean, if nobody takes care of you, who would, right? Black hair. Yeah, it's not just black. It is beautiful, elegant, and even a tool for resistance. And the resistance began in the last decade, with many ladies transitioning from the use of relaxers to straightening their hair to their God-given natural woolly hair. Now, what are the things to watch out for while transitioning to natural hair? And how can black women grow their hair with more volume? Maybe black men as well, but the natural hair expert returns to address your hair concerns today on the Morning Brief, because she'll let us know if men are transitioning too, so the men folk are covered too, by the way.
And what will all of these be without you contributing to the conversation? And it would be perfect time to ventilate your grievances as well in a productive and constructive manner, by the way, because we must continue to protect the civic space. So post to us, hashtag CTV Morning Brief on X. We would love to hear from you. And already you're talking about a lot of issues, from protests in Delta State to the power situation. And of course, that position expressed by the Minister of Power. We'll be taking your comments, but keep them coming. Also, don't forget to send us your videos, your compelling videos will be welcome on our WhatsApp platform. Yes, that's a hand of fellowship, as Kadi likes to call it, a hand of fellowship to you. So send us your videos. We'd like to take them after we authenticate them, that indeed they are worth airing. Of course, see, the morning brief is to amplify your voices, so keep them coming.
Absolutely. Bobukola, I need to thank you, by the way, for the suspenders.
You have to go there again. You're welcome.
I mean, it looks so perfect.
I can't remember the last time I used suspenders.
Yeah,
but,
you should try it.
Yeah, I should try
Suspend your worries.
But I do have some trousers I don't even need belts. Maybe I'm going to get one.
We could swing one of these days. On a lighter note.
That is if the Eskimo allows us to swing with that.
Well, the operative word is suspend your worries.
Yeah.
Please don't worry about anything, but think about what the future holds. And we're right back. We'll be returning after this time out with the top stories on the morning brief. Stay with us. We'll be right back. And welcome back to the morning brief. Time now for your top stories, and we're starting with the state of the economy. As Nigerians continue to bemoan the spiraling cost of living, the Northern Traditional Leaders Forum has expressed concern over the impact on the northern region. The forum is calling on government to address the dire economic situation before it gets out of hand. At the meeting of the Northern Traditional Rulers in Kaduna, the chairman and Sultan of Sokoto, Alhaji Saad Abubakar III, said the people of the region are suffering from severe hunger and poverty, coupled with the lingering insecurity that has crippled economic activities in the north.
We have entered into a new cycle of leadership. Some new governors have come on board. Some are having the second term. And still, we are faced with these insecurity issues. To make matters worse, we are faced with rising level of poverty amongst our people. Lack of the normal, and I mean normal, sources of livelihood by the common man to have, even if it's one good meal a day, it's lacking. There's that lack of such. And I believe, talking of insecurity, talking of rising level of poverty are two issues that we cannot, and I mean we cannot sit, fold our arms, and think everything's okay. I've said it so many times at so many fora that things are not okay in Nigeria, and of course things are not okay in the north. We've seen this rising level of insecurity, and we ask ourselves, like I've done so many times, what are the real issues bringing about such rising cases of insecurity? I don't think it's the issue of new government. The new government is continuation of the former government, it's the same party. What really is the problem? And I think that's why one of the reasons we're here to talk to ourselves. We're hoping the security chiefs will be here to brief us, and then we'll go into closed session and discuss some of the issues. But unfortunately, as at now, only the representative of the DG SSS is here, and we don't know whether they will be able to make it. But like I've said, whatever is the case, we finish our meeting, get our facts together, send to every one of them as our own contribution to the amelioration of insecurity and poverty in the north.
And it would seem that government is not unmindful of the situation, as the federal government is set to distribute free grains to the needy as part of efforts to cushion the rising cost of living and also ensure food security. At a press briefing by the Minister of Information and National Orientation, the Minister of Agriculture and Food Security, Mr. Abubakar Kyari, says the federal government is equally targeting 1 million metric tons of rice in order to increase affordability of the staple food. And to other issues of national concern, where the Senate has constituted the 1999 Constitution Amendment Committee to be chaired by the Deputy Senate President, Senator Barrow Jibrin. President of the Senate, Senator Godswill Akpabio, who announced the composition of the committee during plenary, underscored the need for the Senate to review aspects of the Constitution against the backdrop of current realities. He stated that the committee would comprise one senator from each state and one from each geopolitical zone of the country, and is expected to be inaugurated on February the 20th.
There is need for us to touch on some aspects of the Constitution to bring them in line with current realities, particularly with the era of artificial intelligence. We are taking one senator per state because we are talking about constitutional amendment. One senator per state, and then we are also taking one senator representing each geopolitical zone.
And we're still in the federal capital. The president is scheduled to depart Abuja for Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, today to participate in the 37th ordinary session of the Assembly of Heads of State and Government of the African Union. According to a statement by the special advisor to the president on media and publicity, Ajuri Ngilali, President Bola Tinubu will join other African leaders in high-level meetings on institutional reforms of the African Union. Issues such as peace and security, climate change, as well as modalities of participation and priorities of the continental body in the G20 will be discussed. And away from the federal capital, the governor of Bayelsa State, Governor Doyediri, has been sworn in for a second term in office. He took his oath of office at 1:58 p.m. on Wednesday at the Samson Siasia Sports Complex in Yenagoa, the state capital. Both Diri and his deputy, Lawrence Ehujapo, took their oath of office administered by the State Chief Judge, Justice Matilda Ayemieye. Dignitaries that graced the occasion include Vice President Kashim Shettima, former Presidents Olusegun Obasanjo and Goodluck Jonathan, and his wife, Patience, Vice President of Liberia, Jeremiah Kung. Governor Diri, in his inauguration speech, highlights his administration's achievements during his first term, while also announcing the policy direction for economic development in the new tenure.
During our first term, we worked to improve the condition of our roads, schools, and hospitals, create more jobs for our people, and tackled the disunity and insecurity that was affecting our people. 4 years later, we can modestly tell ourselves that we have done well. And this could not have been possible without your support.
In a bid to cut subsidy on electricity in the country, the Minister of Power, Mr. Adebayo Adelabu, wants the distribution companies, as DISCOs, unbundled on a state-by-state basis to optimize efficiency and increase accountability and transparency to the consumers, as well as help states to generate power independently. Mr. Adelabu, who made this known during a press conference, stresses that while only 450 billion naira was budgeted for electricity subsidy this year, the ministry, however, needs over 2 trillion naira. According to Mr. Adelabu, there is an urgent need to move towards a cost-effective tariff model, as it currently owes 1.3 trillion naira to GENCOs and $1.3 billion to gas companies. And more on the economy. For the 5th time this year, the Central Bank of Nigeria has hiked the exchange rate for computing customs duties at seaports, and this time by 2.6%. According to data from the official trade portal of the Nigeria Customs Service, the rate was reviewed upward on February the 14th from 1,444 naira 56 kobo to a dollar to 1,481 naira 48 kobo to a dollar, representing an increase of 36 naira 92 kobo. And this means importers will be paying more to clear their goods, as import duties are benchmarked against the dollar. Some experts believe the frequent exchange rate adjustment by the CBN is contributing to economic hardship and poverty in the country as more businesses continue to shut down. And outside our shores now, former French President Nicolas Sarkozy has been found guilty of illegally funding his 2012 re-election campaign. He was handed a one-year sentence, of which 6 months were suspended, meaning they might be served by wearing an electronic tag instead of going to jail. Sarkozy was accused of overspending on his campaign, then hiring a PR firm to cover it up. He has always denied all allegations. And former world #1 Rafael Nadal says he's unsure if he will be ready to return to action in Doha next week after he withdrew from the Australian Open with a muscle tear. The Spaniard missed most of last year with a hip injury sustained in Melbourne, but made his comeback at the Brisbane International in the lead-up to this year's Australian Open. The 2022 Grand Slam winner is far more optimistic about playing in Indian Wells, the year's first Masters 1000 event, which runs from March the 16th to the 17th in the California desert. So many interesting stories to look up and, of course, to comment on this morning. But we're going to continue now with some of your contributions to these top stories as Jeffrey joins me. Jeffrey, I wonder which one of these stories has, caught your fancy?
Well, absolutely. The one that caught my fancy the most is the one that has to do with power. Generally, this is what we've been talking about, national infrastructure. We can hear from the minister. We've been talking about him and, sending messages as much as we can on the program to say what is going on with power. So some of these explanations is giving the things that we will be talking about maybe later on the show. And that's what people are actually responding to today. And that's where we want to take their thoughts. But it's just sad to see that after 60-something years of our independence as a country, and this 24 or 25 years of uninterrupted democracy in the Fourth Republic, we can't be able to fix something as simple as power. And so, in fact, some of the simplest things we've not been able to fix. And sometimes people say these things are not as simplistic as it is. But some people will disagree because there are other clients where these things have been fixed. They have their issues, but certain things are working. So what exactly can we say is really working 100%? This is one of the things that should be working, because when you have power, every other thing it has a knock-on effect positively at the end of the day to begin to show that, look, if you have power, industrialization is guaranteed, creativity is guaranteed, people can do a lot more. Just like what we saw with the revolution, with the coming of the social media and the internet and all of that, and the GSM phones and all of that, or mobile phones as we call it today. So we can see that a lot of things depends on some of these very, very core infrastructure or initiative or project or whatever you want to call it. I know you Nigerians are really reacting to all of this, which is why we want to take your thoughts, Bukola.
Indeed. Well, you've said it all, Jeffrey, and I wonder if how government is going to be able to achieve its $1 trillion economy without power. So power is very significant. And that's, one of the subjects that we're beginning with as we look at your contribution. Ralph is saying, I never knew there had been any subsidy of electricity, and we still pay so much for so little service delivery. How often do people get to use electricity in a month despite huge amounts of bills being paid? Where had been this subsidy, please? Okay. Well, Jeffrey, do you have an answer to that question?
I don't know. The minister has to answer. I think we would like to have that conversation with the minister to maybe break it down for us, some of these things, because we're dealing with the issue of removal of fuel subsidy on one hand, and then the proposal for removal of electricity subsidy. Some Nigerians said they never knew that it was subsidized. Now you know it's been subsidized. But people wonder if you add removal of electricity subsidy to the one we're staggering around, like literally the country is trying to get its way around the removal of fuel subsidy, what then happens? That's why we're taking your thought, so that those in authority will listen. This is from Decent. It says, no wonder light have not been stable these days. Well, that's his own
despite those huge subsidy sums, you know, government says it's still owing gas companies to the tune of, in fact, in one case, $1.3 trillion. I had to look at the figure again.
Yeah, it is.
To be sure that it was, is it naira or dollars? So what happens to the new regime should the power companies be unbundled? Who inherits the debts? Would it be the state government?
Some have argued that I've been issued from the very beginning. There were some structural issues there were not put in place to be able to make this work for the people that invested, like the discos, I think the 12 of them and all of that. So, well, the experts will be able to explain that. Those are the questions for the experts to explain to us. Absolutely. What were the failures at the initial point that we seem to be failing despite whatever initiative is being brought to the table? This is coming from Chim Nedum. No fuel subsidy, no electricity subsidy, no education subsidy. What exactly are we enjoying as Nigerians? Big question. Big questions. Yes.
Okay, we'll put that through to Mr. President. This one is from Prudence for a Reason. And they say, around here, we're already paying very high fees for electricity reload. I think by this time next year, an average worker who earns the minimum wage won't be able to afford anything in this country anymore. And that may not be far from the truth.
We're close to that point, actually. We're actually close to that point.
Very
disposable
close.
Income is, I don't know whether it's disposable. Like everything comes and goes right now for a lot of people. Upcoming billionaire, I like your mission, by the way. Subsidy or no subsidy, please, they should reduce the price of fuel. Heat is too much, as the way we call it, NEPA. NEPA is our discos now. No one give us light. At least we can be able to buy fuel.
Sad. This one is from Ayodeji Kayode, and he says, just wondering what exactly is the value the government is providing. This is getting just too much. A lot of belly aching there.
So much lamentation and complaints. Jude says, it's already expensive now. How much more when the subsidy is off? Just like petrol, the country would become very toxic to live in.
We hope not.
We hope not.
We certainly hope not. We just have to keep our hopes up. We just have to be upbeat about things, optimistic that, you know, we'll turn a corner very soon. This is from Demola Emmanuel Osho, and he says, I hope, I never knew there had been any subsidy of electricity, and we still pay so much for so little service delivery. How often do people get to use electricity in a month, despite huge amounts of bills being paid? Where had been the subsidy? I guess we've taken this before.
Yeah, it's just so at the end of the day, people are actually complaining about the proposed subsidy removal in the sector. I'm talking about the electricity power sector now. I know that the average is about, I think about, I'll get the figures, but in terms of kilowatts that you pay for units and all of that, to be able to get electricity. That's why initially when they started distributing all of these things, when you say you reach out 10,000, you know the number of units you get, but now if you do 10,000, you know it's a lesser number of units. So all of that is coming up. So people are wondering, if you now increase it, how much are we going to be paying for it? So let's move on to other issues that you've been talking about on X, which has to do with the protest in Delta State. You know, we saw this protest about people talking about, I think, police brutality and all of that. And it's a bit of a deja vu because the whole NSAS thing actually started from Delta State with incidents like this. So, yes, this person, Mudiaga Esiekwe, says, are these things still happening even after all the reforms in the police? Big question.
Big question. Another big question. This one is from Oyeni Samuel, and he says, different story every day. Let's take things easy now. Good counsel there.
Alton says, in 2024, we're still talking about matters like this. When will things be okay at this rate? Still talking about the alleged police brutality that sparked this particular protest in Delta State? Bukola?
This one is from Onize, and they say they should also look for ways to curb this hardship. God is your people's strength. I am still wondering what they eat that gives them that energy in this hot sun again. We need a reform of Nigeria, not police brutality and hunger.
Absolutely. Itu says, I don't support vandalism or violent protests, but there's a limit at which people can endure. With the kind of hardship people are facing, coupled with the treatment people are getting from the force, it may trigger such action in the long run.
Well, we sincerely hope not.
We sincerely hope that. I just said that we remember what happened with the NSAS. It was a legitimate protest by the people, at some point hijacked, according to the government and all of that. So no matter what we do, Bukola used the word, keeping the civic space safe.
Yeah.
We must engage critically, no matter how bad we feel. So we do not support violence in any form, shape, or shape. So as much as possible, protest is allowed according to law. The law allows people to protest as long as they want to protest, but violence can lead to anarchy, which is why there shouldn't be any support for violence. We must continue to do it. And everybody involved must take responsibility, the police and all of that, and they must take responsibility to put themselves in check so that all of this doesn't escalate beyond what the states can manage.
And indeed, if reforms have been ongoing, particularly under the current regime of the Inspector General of Police, these reforms must reflect in the welfare and in the outlook of the police force in terms of infrastructure development and in terms of what they're taking home. We know that conversations are already ongoing about improved remuneration for the police force.
It's absolutely abysmal to hear how much. If you know how much an average, well, I think the lowest rank is constable.
Yeah.
I think we asked the former CP also, one of the, I think last week or earlier this week, and he gave us a figure within, is it 30 to 50,000? We can't confirm that, but that's a man who served as a commissioner. So, of course, you take it as something from the authority. And if that's how much a man who has a gun in his hands earns, and you expect him to put his life on the line for you, then I think we need to do something urgently.
Urgently is the key word here. This one is from Damuchi, and they say, tell the government to be paying the police. Some police have not received salary for over 8 months now. That's why all these are happening. Well, we can't immediately verify that.
We can't verify that. I know that one of these, I was driving down one day and one of the policemen told me, he knows I work with a media organization. I said, tell them now, our pensions, let them sign it. Well, I said, I will find out. So maybe this is an opportunity for the police authorities, Police Service Commission. So all of these allegations or complaints about either salaries not being paid or pensions not being signed, please, would like a response from you so that we put the facts right. This is coming from City Boy. He says, it is time for us youth to stand up nationwide and fight again. No, we will not support violence. If that's what you mean, that is not supported. But this time, not just for police brutality, let's fight against bad governance and the country's poor economy. We agree you should fight, but within the civic space as allowed by democracy, not in any form of violence. So please, whatever you do, let's not go the line of taking up arms against the state or anyone else, because that is going to escalate the issue even further and make it worse. But
you can continue with the productive engagement online by airing your views, and all of the handles of government agencies are online as well. So let's keep tagging by engaging in constructive criticisms rather than violence. So we'll be back to take more of your comments, but we'll begin to unfold what we have for you this morning in just a moment. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
also resuscitating the abandoned 26 small and medium-sized hydro plants across the country with solar hybridization. This will adopt embedded power model with connectivity to the regional discourse network. This is so easy. It doesn't have to go through the national grid. We have small dams with 10 megawatts, 6 megawatts, 1 megawatt across. We have one in Oyo State, Ikere Gorge Dam. We have one in Ogun State, Oyo, and we have across Nigeria. If we rehabilitate this, we're going to be supplying additional power to the states. And they don't need to go to the national grid on the 330 or 132 kV lines. They will be on the 33 kV line within the distribution network of the state. And this will be backup power. Then we are completing the 20 megawatt wind solar hybrid power plant in Katsina State. We have completed the 10 megawatts wind. We are now hybridizing it with a solar of another 10 megawatts. Once we complete that, that's another 20 megawatts coming from Katsina State. And we are completing the infrastructure required for complete evacuation of there is a 30 megawatt Gurara Dam power plant.
So many projections, coming from the Minister of Power there under the new administration that makes you look forward to something significant happening there. We hope that in no distant time this will happen. But when we look at, the past, successive administrations have promised to deliver on 24 hours uninterrupted power supply with very little tangible results. So, what are we to expect from the position expressed by the Minister of Power that there must be an unbundling because government is owing discos and gencos to the tune of trillions of dollars in one case and trillions of naira in another case? Let's have that conversation as we look at the power situation. We have joining us Barrister Sunday Oduton. Barrister Sunday Oduton is the Executive Director, Association of Nigeria Electricity Distributors, ANED. Thank you for joining us thank you very much for joining us, sir.
Thank you. Good morning.
I want to start this way. Industry data suggests that in the last 5 years or thereabout, the power grid has experienced about 232 collapses. First of all, what is responsible for these collapses? Perhaps you could explain to us in clear language. And over the years, why has the Ministry of Power been unable to rein in on the collapses?
Thank you very much. I would like to just keep this thing away from technicality. Let me just break it down in a way that our viewers will understand. Every time we talk about grid collapse, and what we do mainly in this country is to look for someone to blame. Somebody has to take the blame. I think, and even right now I can see on your screen when you put generation and distribution challenge. It is actually generation, transmission, and distribution challenge. The value chain is challenged because the issue revolves around liquidity. Unlike the telecom, the power sector at the point of privatization required a lot of investment. And when you talk about investment, you also have to talk about cost recovery. Channel TV is still here many years after its establishment because it's been able to recover its costs of producing all this program and, doing this business. In every business, there's a need for the businessman to be able to put money into business and then recover the cost. Even where there's no profit, you still need to recover your costs. So in the case of the power sector, the problem has been, it's been a long journey, a major problem. We started privatization in 2013. I can say with fact and figure that, yes, a lot of progress has been made. But Nigerians, what Nigerians want is electricity. They don't want stories or want to hear why is this. They just say, just give us electricity. But Nigerians also need to understand that electricity is not a social service, not anymore. Electricity is a product like bread or any other product. It has to be paid for. Somebody has to pay for it. And not just paying, we have to pay the appropriate price, the appropriate tariff. We have to all desist from the usual Nigerian theft. There's a huge, every minute somebody is stealing energy somewhere in this country. This is a country where people like stealing. Stealing has become a culture. Stealing energy, bypassing electricity, and you will be surprised. Big men do it, big men, rich people, not just poor ones. And the collapse of the grid is because of the dilapidated infrastructure, that's number one. Because of the fact that there are challenges at the interface between generation, transmission, and of course distribution. So instead of blaming the TCN or blaming the government or blaming the operators, I think we should look at the whole thing without being emotional in a holistic way and ask the question, why don't we have light? We don't have light because we have not invested enough in the system, because in this country, even when you give light to a community, it is a difficult thing for you to collect your money. Even when you give people prepaid meter, they find a way to bypass their meters. And I can give you an example from Ikeja GRA in Lagos, home of very rich Nigerians, to Asoko in Abuja, to a place called Bompai in Kano, to a place called, there's a place in Jos. These are highbrow, top people area. And you wonder, when you see the way, Nigerians want electricity, but most people want it free of charge. I saw some tweets where some of our people this morning are saying, I don't know there's any subsidy. And with all the money, we are paying so much. The question people should be asking is, how much does it cost to produce a kilowatt hour of electricity? It is when you know the cost of production of bread by the baker in a bakery that you can determine the cost of bread. You cannot just sit down and say, I want to eat bread. I don't care about how the farmer grows wheat. You don't care about how the wheat gets to the flour mill, how the flour mill produces flour, before the baker, the owner of the bakery, gets the flour and other ingredients to produce bread. And when this bread is produced, there's a need for transportation. Along the value chain of bread, there's a need for transportation from the farm, taking the wheat to the flour mill, from the flour mill to the bakery, taking flour to them, and from the bakery, taking bread to the retailers. And all these associated costs have to be factored in when you talk about the cost or the price of bread. The same thing applies to electricity. And people need to understand that. May I again apologize to the very honest, patriotic Nigerians who are willing to pay for electricity. May I apologize to them that, of course, we as operators have not served them well enough in the last 10 years. Right. I think we can do better than we're doing, but I think people need to understand the issues, not just naming, blaming, and claiming. Somebody said, take away all of them. We don't want them, change them. There have been a lot of changes in the last 10 years. A friend of mine, a colleague of mine, said, if a house is defective, is a house that is structurally defective, and you want to repair it, you don't repair the house by changing the furniture. You just come, you just paint the room, paint the house, change the furniture. You have not addressed the structural defect. I think that part
if I'm about in here, if I'm about in here, I see the points you're making, but let's just go back a little bit, because when you're about to start a business, now I'm talking about the discourse now and the government. When you're about to start a business, I'm sure the discourse would have done their studies, because some people had claimed that, look, I've been issued from the beginning, this was meant to fail. Maybe you address that, because that's actually the high point of my question. Why people felt that this was designed to fail in the first place? What were the defects already seen? Because some of the things you're raising, you can't blame citizens, you can't blame businesses. Yes, we have our responsibility. But before you came into business, as a disco, I suppose you would have done your studies and know how you can break even and the things you need in terms of all the elements of that business to succeed. Now, we're seeing this. In fact, sometimes we see government is owing discos, discos are owing government, and all that blame back and forth. So what were the failures, ab initio, that were there that you, from your perspective, no matter who comes to do what, this will not work at the end of the day, if you get my drift?
Thank you very much. My dear brother, well, I don't know for how long you've been working for Channel TV, but this question you're asking me, exactly this question was asked in this studio in July 2015 by Maokpe Ogun. She was then Miss Maokpe Ogun. And let me tell you, all these issues about didn't they do their studies? There's nobody, there's no businessman that want to put his money down the drain. Every businessman that comes to invest in any business, anywhere in the world, Nigeria inclusive, will have done their studies. The system failed because we Nigerians ourselves, we have certain peculiarities. And I mentioned that in passing earlier when I said Nigerians would rather have electricity free of charge. Nigeria is the only country where I've seen people protesting, elite or educated people. They were protesting against toll gate. They don't want toll gate. That was in Lekki, in Lagos. They don't want to be paying for toll gate. I lived in England for over 26 years. There are some areas that we go that you pay. To go along a particular road, you pay. Because as they toll the road, they use that money to maintain the road. Same thing with electricity. So when the investor came on board in 2013, certain agreement was signed between them and the government. I'm an Egbaman, no, I'm not an investor. I'm not an investor in this sector. So I don't have any emotional or economic tie that will stop me from saying the truth. And it is sad that I have to go back in time to talk about exactly what we've discussed in this studio several times in another platform. Now, they signed an agreement with the government of President Goodluck Jonathan, who also meant well, but at the end of the day, the government did not keep their own side of the agreement. If you present a 10-point agenda and you say, my government will do number 1 to 5, Mr. Investor, you will do number 6 to 10. But the performance of 6 to 10 is predicated upon the performance of 1 to 5. My dear brother, if you fail to do 1 to 5, 6 to 10 will not happen. So these are issues that happen. And of course, I've been long enough in this sector to have witnessed so far now 3 governments. President Jonathan, President Buhari, and now President Tinubu. And when you look at the trajectory, you look at what has happened. And I think I have also witnessed not less than 3 or 4 ministers of power. And each of them meant well in their own way, but we have to address the root cause of the problem. The problem with Nigeria is, number 1, Nigeria in that time, at that point, when the problem started, as at 2013,
right,
Nigeria does not seem to respect the sanctity of contract. When you sign a contract with an investor, whether a foreigner or indigenous investor, you have to respect every word of that contract. The moment you renege or default, then they will start cutting corners. That is the truth. So that is number 1. Number 2, we cannot have electricity in Nigeria until all of us agree that we must know the cost of production.
Okay,
it's about cost.
Let me come in now. And I think you have reiterated that point, pardon me. And since we're talking about dates, I'd like to add another date to this conversation. January 2022, Former President Muhammadu Buhari, in an exclusive interview with Channels Television, when he was speaking about this process, this was what he said. He said the whole privatization process was actually political favor. And that's why I beg to differ on that point that Jeffrey made about, going into business, making plans. And I'll take the words of the former president. He says that the people that own them, who are they? They don't have money. It's just a political favor. And he was speaking particularly to, what we call discos and the rest. So he actually looked through that process. As a president, of course, he had all of that information. And he said it categorically that it was political favor then. And that is at the heart of this conversation. I know some will say, don't let's go back, let's move forward. But we need to address those challenges. Because time and again, discos have called for, help from the government, saying we need funds and the rest. Just to put that on record, that the former president spoke to that point, which was raised. But you have said this time and again about the pricing, appropriate pricing. How much does it cost? So let's lay it bare, Barrister Odunto. You are the spokesperson for the distribution companies. So tell us, how much does it cost? And how much do you think appropriate pricing is? As you said, you want to lay it bare for Nigerians.
Okay. The cost of doing business in Lagos is different from the cost of doing business in Damaturu. And that's one of the problems that is affecting us when you talk about petrol or oil. The cost of doing business in Ilorin is different from the Port Harcourt, and so on and so forth. So, in the case of electricity, we haven't gone far and the regulator has done well so far that we even have what we call bands. Band A, Band B, Band C, Band E, Band D. Now, the different bands have to do with the commitment, the amount of hours on average that you can have electricity for. So, if you are in Lagos State, for instance, if you live in Magodo, you are definitely going to have more electricity than if you live in Okoba. Because electricity supply in Nigeria, the way Nigeria is wired, it is location-based. It is location-specific. It depends on exactly where you are. A lot of things need to be done. It has to do with a lot of investment. So talking about the cost that you asked for, on average, in some cases, residential customers pay an average of 54 naira per kilowatt hour. Now, when we talk about cost, we are talking about those who are paying that 54 naira, like today, as at this morning, those who are on 54 naira per kilowatt hour, the true cost that they should be paying is not less than 112 naira per kilowatt hour. So what happened to the gap between 54 naira and 112? Even this year, because by law, the regulator is, and the NEC, our regulator, they are doing a very difficult job. And they are trying their best to maintain the balance between the economic reality and, of course, the best thing for Nigerians. So when you look at, so every 6 months, the law requires them to do a review of the tariff, taking into consideration inflation, foreign exchange, and other economic indices. The last one that was done, which was to take effect from January last month, you know what happened? By the time they did all the computation, and for the sake of our viewers, let me say first that electricity in Nigeria, when we talk and we mention forest, people need to understand more than 80% of the equipment that we use in the Nigerian power sector are imported. So forest is very, very important. And you don't have to travel abroad. Iyaloja also knows that naira to dollar has gone up. So the tariff that should have started in January this year, if the actual cost is put to Nigerians to pay, I'm sure there will have been protests everywhere by now. The government decided, the federal government decided that, okay, let us know the true cost. This is the cost. In some places, 150 naira or 112 naira. They say, okay, let Nigerians continue to pay what they are paying. We will look for money and pay the shortfall. And that is why you did not see me or my colleagues trying to explain to people that because of the inflation rate in Nigeria, because of the forex where it is. Because when I came to Nigeria to start this job, I remember that Naira was less than 150 Naira to $1. And I know how much pound sterling and dollar is today. So with that kind of thing, that's why you hear about subsidy, okay? But again, we are not policymakers. It's for the government to determine how best we can make the sector liquid.
All right.
The issue of cost and how much people should be paying depends on, like I said, if you're on band A, you pay the highest, but you get the best.
How much?
If you're on band D, you pay far less than band C, band B, and band A. But whichever band you are on, I mean, in the last 3 weeks, it's been very tough for everybody, even those who are on band A, because there has been shortage of gas. As a result of that, there has not been electricity, and that's why I apologized at the beginning of this program, because it is not convenient at all.
So for those on band A, what are they paying? And those on band B, pardon me, those on band A, what are they paying? Those on band B, what are they paying?
My dear sister.
Average.
Thank you, my dear sister. I cannot give you that figure. There are 11 discos in the country. It varies from one location to another. And all of us can just go on the next website, NERC, that's our regulator. On their website, you see exactly what you pay if you are in Asokoro, or if you are in Sun City Estate, or wherever, or Lube, in Abuja, or anywhere in the country. So it varies. So I can't give you a figure and say, Band A pays this. I can only tell you that for Band A, you pay more than Band B because you get, on average, I want to say, if we say you get 16 hours of supply, it doesn't mean that every day you get 16 hours. Some days you get 24 hours. Some days you get 10. But on average, in a month, you see that you still come to an average of 16, thereabouts.
So what I can glean, pardon me.
The regulator has done. So, and I think we need to commend them for that. So I can't give you a figure, but it varies from one location to another, from one disco to another.
Okay, so what I can glean from what you're saying is, if, for instance, the cost of power is 54 Naira per kilowatt, government is probably paying a shortfall of 100 Naira per kilowatt for electricity consumers.
Yes.
That's the case, right?
If and when they pay. If and when they pay.
Okay, so that explains the loan. I'd like to take you up on the debt that government says it is owing. I'd like to take you up on your position about Nigerians wanting electricity and not wanting to pay for it. That may not necessarily be the case in all situations. If you consider the challenge of complaints by Nigerians of estimated billing, and of course, that problem that you have in fact apologized for about the value of the electricity supply in the first place. Many Nigerians are paying and they're not getting value for their money. I wonder how you'd respond to this.
Thank you very much, madam. Please give it to me. I've been doing this job now for over 10 years. And I came from a place with all sense of humility. I came from a country, I lived somewhere close to 32 years where things work, the United Kingdom. So I know the difference. I've worked in a sector similar to this, so I know the difference. Now, my job requires me to visit every state of this federation. And I thank God, because when people talk in Nigeria, I want all Nigerians to visit other parts of Nigeria. You see the ordinary man in Yola is not different from my people in Abeokuta. What they want in Yola, Kaduna, what they want in Port Harcourt or Uyo is the same. They want electricity. But in terms of when people say, give us electricity, give us prepaid bill that we will pay, I hear that all the time. I'm involved in a lot of community and customer engagements all over the country. So when I make a statement like this, when I say Nigerians want to use electricity free of charge, I do not mean every Nigerian. To be honest with you, I'm one person that does not believe in tribe. I'm a very proud Egba man from Ogun State. But I can tell you that there are good people everywhere in Nigeria, and there are bad people everywhere in Nigeria. So when I say people, I'm talking about, on average, there are very good people. There are people that are willing to pay. There are people that are saying, please, just give it to us, we'll pay. And let me tell you, everywhere we failed, and that's why I apologize, though. When I apologize, for us as Egba people, we don't apologize for no reason, no. But when we apologize because we feel that there's a gap. Something is missing. There's something we need to do that we have not done. What I'm saying is that we can do better than we are doing. Even at this cause, we are not efficient enough, so we need to do more. Now, what I'm saying is that if you give 100 million worth of electricity to a community, and we did that during COVID in a particular location. All right. I don't want to mention the name of the town. The paramount ruler of that town called me and said, give my people light. We want light. Okay. And then we spoke with the disco and we did a test. Let's put this X amount of electricity into that neighborhood. At the end of the day, at the end of the month, the disco was only able to recover 13% of that money.
All right, Mr. Aduson, so we can squeeze in as much questions as possible because we don't have the luxury of time. So there are proposals on the table. I remember the president at Chatham House, when he was campaigning, said the model is a bad one, is broken and has to be fixed. So perhaps what difference will it make with this decentralization idea as proposed by the minister? Of course, they've talked about this even, I think, in their manifesto. Will it make a huge difference?
Well, I can say that, save for a few hiccups or areas that they need to look at very well, I think the Electricity Act of 2023, as amended, will help this country a lot. Number one, it will increase efficiency because it places a lot of a significant emphasis on improvement in service across the board, from generation through transmission to distribution. It will bring more competition, which is good for the sector, for the country. It will also enable the states to participate. And with that, I hope the state will put on their thinking cap, because let's be honest, figures show that in recent months, states in Nigeria have collected a lot more allocation than they did in a long time. Okay. And the governor should be called to account. Right. It's not enough to just come out and say, I'm doing palliative, and you start saying you are sharing money or you are doing this. This is the time for them to invest in the electricity of their state. Indeed. So it will help. Okay. It will help. Right. And I think this is good because I think it also opens up the market for some more competition of sorts. I know there are independent projects, and people, they even pay less than the premium you're expecting of the Nigerians to pay in some areas, in some certain cities. I don't just want to mention. But I'd like you to respond to this question, Barrister, from one of our viewers. There's been a lot of questions coming in. You understand Nigerians are really concerned when it comes to the power situation. And this is Emmanuel from Abia State saying, if electricity is same thing as bread, why do I have to provide my pole, wire, transformer, and the rest? Do I provide flour, nylon, firewood to the bakery? Why do I have to pray for NEPA, in this case distribution companies, to give me light after procuring units? Do I pray for the bakery to give me bread after paying for bread? So Emmanuel is faulting that analogy that you gave earlier on. I wonder how you respond to that. Thank you very much. I want to say that the analogy is very, very relevant. Mr. Emmanuel, I want to give it to him. I want to assume that he is a honest Nigerian who pays for his utilities. So I can see where he's coming from. If Mr. Emmanuel truly pay, and if, of course, when you see people buying their poles, buying their cables, paying to repair their own transformer, that is part of the failure of the system. Why am I calling it the failure of the system? It is the distribution companies that should provide transformers, that should maintain it, that should always respond to fault clearing. And they do in some cases, in some locations. But why are they not doing it all the time everywhere? It is still about liquidity. Because if I'm the managing director of a disco, and I have 100, and I've seen this example, this is a real story. We have 175 requests for repair of transformer. And the money you have in your cover can only do 30. And you have 175 requests. This point I'm making happened in 2014. And the MD of that disco is no more there now. Happened to be an expatriate, a very honest man. He showed me the book. And then the question now is, out of 175, he had money to do 30. And I'll tell you why he doesn't have more money to do more than 30. But that 30, he had to now select the one he would do. You know what they did? He now said, go and check on our system, each of those transformers. Let us see the payment history, the debts, if any, on any of the transformers. My dear brother, huge debt in most of them. So he chose to repair the one where the customers were paying. But he called the mission of the others and said, this is your bill. You have not paid. This is what we send through this transformer to your neighborhood. And this is the amount of energy that has disappeared without trace. So one, let us work together and fish out the tips. Number two, go and pay part of this debt, part payment. Let's make an arrangement on payment. Then we'll do the repair. And in this case, he was able to.
Well, Barrister, that sounds like an isolated case, really. And I think this is not the case for others. That's an isolated case. These are Nigerians, honest Nigerians. It sounds like you're even angry with a lot of the consumers. And I imagine the consumers wondering, a lot of us are honest. We're paying from our hard-earned monies just to try to get power. But you said you have the data, but I just want to say that that is not the situation in its entirety. There are isolated cases, yes, but there are a lot of honest Nigerians.
And in addition to that, I was hoping you would take responsibility by saying it is us. You said it's the distribution companies. We introduced you as executive director of the Association of Distribution Companies. So you should be taking responsibility,
the spokesperson of Discuss.
A spokesperson. And then why should one consumer be taking responsibility for the debt of other people?
In 1 minute, we can answer us. Just 1 minute. Just a minute,
okay.
Sir.
Number one, when I say the distribution company, it means it is us. So it's not about me not taking responsibility. I'm very proud to be representing them, and I will say the truth and say it as it is. Number two, when you say, if I live in the neighborhood where there are more thieves than honest people, if on my street we are 20 on a transformer and 15 of us steal energy, there's no way they will give me electricity without giving the other 15 people. For that reason, we will not all have light. So that is me getting punished because of the thieves that surround me where I am. And I know thieves. There's nobody who does not know. In this studio, you cannot say that you have not heard about anything in your neighborhood if you live in Nigeria, unless you live among angels from heaven. You cannot say you have never heard of meter bypass. So when I talk about this, though, I'm not saying majority of Nigerians, though. Most Nigerians are good people, honest people. So
maybe Mr. Odozo, you use the most to cancel out the bad. Since we're in the majority, the good ones, I pay my bill. I'm sure my colleagues pay their bill.
Yeah.
Don't make us suffer for the bad element. So
but really,
yes.
People stealing electricity should stop.
And
I think that's an important point to make.
We know they do. We know they do. People do. People bypass. We agree. But we're saying we should not be suffering for those. The law has provided for such things. Mr. Adoto, we don't have any more time.
We're totally out of time. And we hope also that your enumerators, I think that's what they call them, will be diligent to fish out those who do a meter bypass in communities.
And so if many Nigerians see something, they should say something.
Say something, right? Yeah, so
Maybe
many
put up an incentive that if I say something, I'll get something.
Yeah, so many issues
to touch on. If I say something, I'll get something, yes.
So many issues to touch on. But we'd like to thank you very much, Barrister Sunday Oduto, is the Executive Director, Association of Nigerian Electricity Distributors. Thank you so much for coming on the Morning Brief.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Wow, what a conversation, and we didn't exhaust it. We hope to, continue this conversation. Up next on the Morning Brief, we'll be taking a look at something very, very important that concerns how you're able to, beat the heat and humidity in this unique weather, for lack of words. So stay with us. You're going to profit from this conversation. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to the Morning Brief. We switch gears now to the issue of the heat. In Nigerian parlance, people used to say things like, this is not dissing, okay? But this heat is hitting. That's the only way I can express it. Nigerians understand what I'm saying when we say so. But basically, we're saying that the heat is becoming quite unbearable, which is why we had to call the authorities and people who understand these things to come and explain to us why everywhere is this hot and what we need to do to keep safe at the end of the day, because it's not funny. The economy is biting harder. We can't add nature's wrath on it and not know what to do at the end of the day. So we're being joined from our Abuja studio by the Director of Weather Forecast Services of NIMET, Professor Vincent Welly. Professor Welly, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you very much for having me. Good morning, Nigerians.
Prof, I know this question may sound funny, but I had to ask it. Are you feeling the heat?
Yeah, of course. The heat is intense, and just as we have noted, is above normal. You agree with me that even when you put on the fan in your room, the air is hot. And that has affected a lot of things. In fact, I noticed within yesterday that even the fridge does not cool substances you put into them as it used to be. And so this is because of the extreme heat that we're experiencing. For us, it's called, heat wave. But we pray it doesn't get to the extent where it will lead to heat strokes and all of that, where people begin to get highly dehydrated and they'll be rushed to hospital. So we don't have hospital emergencies. And that is why we issued this alert to inform Nigerians that what we're observing, is above normal. And that people should take precautionary measures to ensure that they are not vulnerable, especially within the hours of 12, 1 to 3, when the intensity of the sun is highest. And so people must begin to, ensure that they do not get highly dehydrated, because as it is, the body is always wanting to be in thermal equilibrium, with the environment. And because of that, as the heat is increasing, the system will be losing water because the body wants to be in thermal equilibrium, and which will never be. And because of that, trying to do that will remove so much water from the system. And of course, when enough water is not in the system, the organs of the body that needs them for proper functioning will be affected, and that will lead to heat strokes and all of that. And for us as climate scientists, we have noted that last year has been released by World Meteorological Organization is the warmest in the history of the entire Earth. And that year is a year of El Nino. And when El Nino occurs, it comes with so much heat. And when I talk about El Nino, a lot of people may not understand, but El Nino is a Spanish word for a sudden change in temperature around the Pacific Ocean, especially in Peru. And so when El Nino occurs, it causes a lot of teleconnections, arising from the interactions with the several atmospheric ocean oscillations, like the Pacific Decadal Oscillation. We have the Julian oscillation. We also have
the Indian Ocean Dipole. So these three circulation systems associated with ocean atmosphere circulation affects the weather patterns of the entire Earth. And that is what we're experiencing right now.
So, Prof, we checked the weather forecast and we're getting 30 degrees for Lagos, though it feels more like 39 degrees, if you ask me. I wonder why that is. Again, we're low emitters in this part of the world, but that is not to say that we shouldn't take responsibility. So I wonder if you can also talk to us about what we're doing wrong that is contributing to this version of global warming that we're experiencing and how we can adjust our conduct.
Yeah, thank you very much. There are a lot of things that are associated with this warming. Of course, we have always noted that the issue of global warming is real, the issue of climate change is real, and people are beginning to feel what we've been saying for some years back now. And of course, the COP28 that held recently is in connection to what we're talking about, the issue of climate change. We have used fossil fuel to the extent that we have emitted so much greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. And these greenhouse gases like nitrous oxide, methane, carbon dioxide, among others, have the capacity to allow heat to penetrate to the Earth's surface and will not allow it to escape, sending the heat back in what we call counter-irradiation back to the Earth's surface, warming the entire Earth's surface. And so what we must do is to seek for alternative sources of energy instead of carbon-induced sources, which will lead to higher emissions of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Two, we must begin to look at proper urban planning strategies to ensure that the issue of what we also call urban heat islands do not occur, especially in the urban centers. We must begin to look at climate resilient infrastructures to be put in place so that this heat can be taken care of. And so we must of course, we are in an energy transition period all over the world, and most countries have set agenda on when to phase out the use of fossil fuel to drive their cars, to use in different machineries and industrial plants and all of that. So we must begin to plan as a nation, to begin to shift away from carbon-induced energy sources to sustainable energy sources like gas, like solar, of course, which we have not explored so much in this country. I'm thinking that there's need for an emergency, in the area of sustainable energy. Right. That for every building to be built in an urban center or anywhere in Nigeria, it must have solar panels to power those buildings, so that people will begin, to transit to those kind of things. And so, as a nation, we should begin to think of what we can do in this direction, and it's doable, if you ask me.
Indeed, and there's a lot of conversation around that, but as we've seen, very little action compared to all of the meetings, the COPs and the rest. This situation may have been more bearable if we had stable power supply, and you may have caught the conversation we had earlier. This heat wave chose the wrongest time to come. It may have made, maybe if we had some sort of dialogue, we'll have told you, okay, come at a time when we'll have stable power supply. But it's the environment. You can never predict and have a handle on all of these things. And when you said that, this heat wave will persist, because I've seen the release from NIMET, that this will persist for more days. And I'm wondering, heat wave, you said so far it has not become heat stroke. And that is a fear that it might even get worse. And let's look at the heat map, which NIMET put out just yesterday. And I'm seeing everywhere in Nigeria is either it is red, orange, there's no green. Green, by the way, means low risk. But everywhere, it's either it is red, orange, or yellow. And it just speaks to the fact that this situation is really, really urgent and dangerous.
Maybe you can
right
read
there.
what those things mean.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
So if you have green, which by the way we don't have green at all, it means a normal, good condition with cold morning. But what we have is from yellow, which means caution, fatigue possible with cold morning. And you can see that in upper parts. Extreme, that's caution, sunstroke, muscle cramps. Then orange is the deeper orange, means danger. And the red, which you can see some parts of the southwest, south, and the southeast as well, is showing that. That is the situation, Prof. I want you to talk us through what we can do, because obviously we can't have a conversation with the weather, but at least we can have a conversation with ourselves. What we can do to at least get by this very, very tricky period.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that this time, when we're experiencing this heat stress, that there is the issue with the national grid. And of course, Nigerians are going to suffer so much. And that is one of the reasons why, as an agency under the leadership of the DG, Professor Chasan Osike, who we are committed and determined to make sure that we provide, timely, reliable, forecast, for Nigerians. So what we can do, is to begin to seek heat-reducing behaviors. We must not expose ourselves to, high intensity of sunlight, like I've said earlier on. There's nothing we can do so much as it is now because it's before us. The only thing we can do is to not to expose ourselves, is to take precautionary measures, to a large extent, so that we don't get, the extreme aspect of it, which is heat stroke, as I noted earlier on. But for this, extreme heat, we have said it's going to persist for some time. And for us, we're observing it, every now, just 24/7. Our staff are on the field monitoring what, how it's going to look like. And we're going to continue to report to Nigerians to ensure that
would this take one more
we
week?
do not record casualties.
Is it like when you say some more time?
Of course, it's a lot.
Pardon me, Prof, just quickly. When you say some more time, is that 1 week, 1 day, 1 month? Let us know so we can prepare ourselves.
At least in the next 1 week, because we have seen where, like in Gombe, getting up to above normal, above normal 5 degrees, in River State, above normal of 3 degrees, Where above normal of 4 degrees. So it's something serious. And so we are looking at in the next 1 week, we'll be observing it and we'll be reporting, to the public through, your media platforms. Yeah. So we'll continue to do that. Of course, it's a weather phenomenon. It changes abruptly, but we continue to monitor. It is not static. It may not be static, but changes from time to time, given the science behind this change, like I've noted in the beginning of my discussions.
All right, Prof. If we go back to that map, I want to go back to that map because we're already seeing extreme danger in some parts of the country, which, according to NIMET, demands people to take action. And one of the things that we'll be experiencing is heat stroke or sunstroke, highly likely. Those are the terms that the professionals like you use. Now that those people are experiencing all of this, so let's step it down to the people that have maybe health condition. Is it that they no longer have to go out, or they shouldn't go out at a certain time of the day? And, just very specifics. Some other places are yellow, so it's a bit safe. But we're already in that particular danger zone in some part of the south, southwest, southeast, and even north central. What should people with some kind of medical condition do at this time? Should they begin to talk to HR to say, maybe you can excuse me from work, or I don't know, you guide the nation on what to do, because this is nature.
I have noted before now that those states that are affected, there's need for a state of emergency to be declared so that people can stay out of work within this period, especially when the sun is very high. Of course, with high temperature, cognitive development will be affected, and productivity will be affected. There will be loss of concentration. And so within this period of 12, 1, 2, 3, people should be excused from duty. People should not walk under the sun within this time period. And they can come out in the morning, do whatever they need to do before 11, they are out. Then they can also come out between 4, 5, 6. But between 12, 1, 2, 3, everyone that is vulnerable must leave, should not expose themselves, to the sun, and that will reduce, water loss from the system. 2, people must take more water as I speak to you now. Of course, you also note that your rate of water consumption has increased. From time to time, you experience that your throat is drying up. And more water needs to be consumed. So everybody must consume water more than necessary. Of course, there are some persons that their system, because of how they were brought up, the growing period and what they went through, they didn't take a lot of water. And this period is affecting them. Of course, we are aware, some mothers talk of baby-friendly, stuff, from the maternity, and all of that. So, but we are saying that should not be obeyed right now. Give the children water right now, because they need water. The water and the breast alone will not be able to sustain them. And so that is 2 or 3. Again, people should also try to seek shelter in green areas, under the trees, and all of that. And people should, stop activities that will make them lose so much water. There should be reduction of outdoor activities. So that you don't lose much water. And of course, if you go to the gym this morning, a lot of people are going to the gym to work out, to sweat and all of that. We are saying that a lot of those activities should be reduced right now, because the body system needs water. And of course, if you must go to the gym this morning to lose weight and to sweat it out, you must provide enough water to replenish the system. These are some key things we must take into consideration immediately.
And lastly, Prof, perhaps you could also give us some form of education for those states where they are tagged extreme danger, heat stroke, sunstroke highly likely. In the case where some people inevitably suffer exhaustion, what form of aid should first responders be giving to them such that we can prevent loss of life?
State of emergency should be declared in those states, because that is where we're tending to. And if a state of emergency is declared, then people should be excused from doing, certain extreme, carrying out certain extreme activities that will make them sweat. And for the responders, of course, there should be enough water. If we have water reticulation, infrastructure in our cities, I want to say that this is a period when water must be made available to all homes, if that is possible. And so we must begin to ensure that people, especially children, are very vulnerable. Their system is still very fragile. The elderly, should be given so much attention as we speak, as first responders, will want to get this information from us. So these are the people they should target first. The other bracket should be able to take care of themselves, getting the alert that we are sending out. But the elderly and the children must be, the category of persons that they must respond to immediately.
Prof, thank you so much for your insights. And with what is going on, we will be calling you a lot more, or maybe people from NIMET, because a lot of people don't understand what is going on, because all we do is just feel and experience these things. But when we need explanation, we have to come to you. But I don't think we're excited when you said we should hold on for another 1 week for this. There's no light, and water is expensive. Some people don't even have portable water and all of this. That's why Bukola was asking, what can people really do as quickly as possible to help themselves, so that we don't have situations that will lead to the loss of lives. But we must thank you so much for your insight, for guiding us on all of this. We'll call on you as much as possible when necessary. Professor Vincent Welly is the Director of Weather Forecast Services at NIMED. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm always there to educate Nigerians. With the approval of my DG, I will continue to do this to ensure that Nigerians are properly educated and we will not have serious issues that will lead to casualties resulting from this heat stroke and heat stress.
Thank you so much, Prof. Well, this is not a professional advice. Maybe we can have our bath a lot more just to cool off. I don't know. But the heat is a lot. So whatever you want to do to help yourself, please do as guided or as directed by the authorities. But be as careful as possible. Guys, I don't know. Is there some, I'm sure we're looking for a way to like say, okay, there's something we should have asked. But one of the things that crossed my mind, I didn't ask him that time, was these people that work at sites, construction sites, what do they have to do now? Because they're inevitably exposed to this heat. Well, every other moment.
One of the first few things, borrowing from what Prof is saying, is, they should ensure that they're hydrated as often as possible. There must be an abundance of water. So contractors at site should, take this as express instruction from the professionals that water must be available at site for their, laborers. It's very, very instructive because they're doing high capacity work, a lot of heavy lifting, so they must be hydrated.
Absolutely. It's just worth reiterating that air temperature is hitting over 41 degrees Celsius over the north and 39 degrees over the south. And it's important to have that at the back of our minds. We don't usually look at weather forecasts in Nigeria. You just go out and then it starts raining and you find a place to hide or stuff. But it's important to really get this at the back of our minds. So I take it away from the back, put it in front of your mind. So you don't forget, okay, stay hydrated, limit your workout. We need you to be here for the good of our nation. So please let us pay attention to that.
So let's jump to some of the things that people have been talking about. You've been feeling the heat and you've been speaking on social media. Excuse me. This is coming from a Proco doctor who has been our guest, by the way. I say, please pay attention if you're finding yourself getting dizzy, if you're easily tired, headaches, sweating too much, or even muscle cramps. It might be signs of heat exhaustion or heat stroke that happens when your body cannot contain or maintain a cooler temperature because the weather is too hot. The other day I was having a funny headache. Perhaps, remember I told you, we were talking on the phone.
So it was the heat, right?
I don't know what it was, but I was having this funny headache for maybe 3 hours. Like, if I shake my head, it's there. Like,
don't worry,
is it heat stroke or heat wave?
We got you covered with lots of water. Make sure you're here again tomorrow.
And I drink a lot of water, by the way. I drink a lot of water.
So yeah, just like this young man, just down as much water as you can, as possible.
This one is from Chinwell, and Chinwell says, not having light at night during this heat wave is just brutal. That's it from Chinwell. Next one is from Ifunaya.
Yeah, this is a miracle. Or Miracel AA on X says, my mom's sister called me and asked if I'm experiencing this excessive heat in school. I mean, how could I explain that mine is ×2? Miracel or Miracella says on X. Yeah, I know.
There's a lot to talk about, so keep them coming on X. Of course, we'll take it as much as possible, but the central theme here is keep safe. The authorities have explained to us what is going on. Be careful out there. But we're going to switch gears now. We're going to take this very short break and we switch gears to that very exciting conversation about your hair. Maybe heats. We'll talk about heats, just opposing with hair and all of that. Let's see how that plays out. Our guest is right here with us. We'll be back after this break. Join us again.
With all of that sweating and perspiration, I think that's the appropriate term, but sweating, yeah, we understand that. You know what happens to your skin, your hair, your body, everything is sticky, you're very uncomfortable and all. So we're paying attention to personal care on the show this morning. I mean, we love you that much. After we talked about the power situation, the heat, just so like, let's take it more personal and talk about your hair, our hair, wherever it is. If it's not on your head, it's probably under your chin. And the list goes on and on. Hey, you get your mind back here. So let's have this conversation on the show this morning. We're joined for a second time on the show, Bazzau Ogurubi, who is a CEO, co-founder, All Naturals Beauty Nigeria Limited. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
You don't look like the heat is getting to you.
Not at all, right?
What's going on? What is going? Where are you? Where do you stay?
We are here. We are here. We are here. But it's really been. I don't think there's anybody who's been exempt from the heat. Yeah. But we're finding ways to manage it. If there isn't anything that needs to be done, let it not be done.
Absolutely.
It's just things that need to be done that we're doing. Keep it simple.
Don't try to do too much.
Yes. Keep it simple.
That the season is tricky. So you heard that, and it's good for your hair. So let's talk about the hair. Last time we had you on the show, we had so much questions. Wow. We just hit us wait a minute. This hair matter is a very, very important
a serious matter.
Yes. But we couldn't take all of the questions. I remember we asked you some behind the scenes. So we're trying to take on all of those questions and even expand it, particularly for those who are trying to transition now. They're trying to pay more attention to their hair and ensure that, okay, my hair is not just it's not just an accessory, it's a statement. Keep it clean, keep it healthy, and the rest. So for those who are transitioning from relaxed
hair
to
natural hair,
unrelaxed, natural is more appropriate. There were lots of questions about that. So I'd like you to take it up from how to even start that journey. Okay, I want to stop all of the products, those products, and focus on the ones that are, beneficial to me. How do I start that process?
Well, the first thing seems like a no-brainer. Stop relaxing the hair. So it's not like you say you want to, and we say return to natural because your hair is natural. That's what grows out of your head anyway. Yeah. So it's returning to, what you have. So stop relaxing. What some people would do, the error some people make is that they won't relax their hair for a period of time and then they'll relax it again. So then they say, oh, I was natural for 4 months or I was natural for 6 months. That's not returning to natural. So stop relaxing your hair. And then there are processes that you will follow. Most importantly is patience and time. Oh. Yes, I sold my last bottle of patience yesterday. So we are restocking. So for those who need patience, we will have it on the shelves very soon, but you will need to be patient, and it takes time because it's really the new growth. So what you are doing is that you are not altering your new growth anymore. So for a period of time, you are going to be working with 2 different textures. You are going to be working with your natural hair and you are going to be working with your relaxed hair. So some people will say, you know what, I don't want the stress. I'm just going to cut my relaxed bit off and just deal with my natural hair. That's what some people will do. Meanwhile, there are others who have attained a considerable length that they are happy with, and they are not ready to lose that. So they will transition. So they will stop relaxing, and they'll let the natural hair grow out while while trimming the relaxed bits little by little over a period of time. That could be for a year, it could be for 2 years. I've had a client who transitioned for 3 years. So by the time she took off the last relaxed bits, she had good length. Yes.
Just before you go on, just a moment. Now we're talking about heat, right? And your hair. I know women always say, man, this hair is making the heat even worse for me. Unlike you, as a guy, you just cut your hair. You don't have all of that, not baggage, but all of that. So tell us, which one works better for this temperature, our temperature? Is it your relaxed hair, which I imagine is lighter, which I imagine, I'm not an expert, I'm just imagining, is it the relaxed or the natural? So we can speak to the reality, or again, how functional it is.
The truth is, hair is a covering. Anyway, it covers your head. So hair is it's a covering. And so if you have anything covering your head, there'll be a bit of heat, whether it's relaxed hair or it's natural hair. The thing about natural hair is because it's dense, typically compared to relaxed hair, it can feel quite hot in there if you have an afro. Hair. The wigs can be also very difficult. With braids as well, it could be a little bit tricky as well. So what you want to do is you want to kind of maybe limit the covering that you have. But for those who have fuller hair, I would suggest maybe you do your cornrows, you weave it, you know, or you do your twist so that there's space for breeze, for air, ventilation to go in. Exactly. There are a lot of people who during this period they cut their hair. We see it in the salon. It's too hot. Let me just cut my hair. It's too hot. Let me just cut my hair. And you're like, oh no, you just wait a little bit because this is not forever. You know, we're going to move into rainy season. We're going to move into Harmattan. So just wait a little bit. And then we recommend different hairstyles. Like I said, weaving, even Kiko, which is threading as well. That, you know, just leave pockets of space so that you can get, you know, even if it's the ACs or the fans, you can actually get some, like you said, ventilation going on. That's really important. The challenge with relaxers is that relaxers can actually be anxiety inducing, if that makes any sense, because you're just thinking, okay, I'm going to put this thing on my hair, it's going to burn, it's going to be, you know, hot or painful and stuff like that. And that anxiety in itself can also be, can also exacerbate, you know, this heat wave. So some people will not relax their hair during this period so that they can bring all of that down. Natural hair or relaxed hair really doesn't matter. If you have relaxed hair, I would say do the same thing. Make sure you try to create pockets. I don't recommend braids. I don't recommend extra hair right now because I don't recommend extra hair right now because it's just hot. You're just going to make it, you might as well just take something thick and heavy and just place it on your head and just be moving around, you know. So I wouldn't recommend extra. So whether you've got natural hair, whether you decide not to, you know, let go of your relaxed hair, don't put anything extra. That's my recommendation. And I can hear people say, oh, but I go to work. Oh, but my job doesn't allow me to do this. Oh, but my job doesn't allow me to do that. There are ways, and you just kind of have to be open to options, you know. And the truth about it is, what we consistently see is what we'll accept as good or bad, you know, depending on what the label is. So if you consistently see wigs, you consistently see braids, or braids are good, wigs are bad, braids are bad, or whatever, you will now attach that, you know, that good or bad to that thing. So if you continue seeing natural hair is bad, natural hair is bad, natural hair is bad, regardless of how nicely styled it is, regardless of how well kept it is, you will look at it and you will be like, this is still bad, you know. So in summary, reduce the amount of covering you have on your head. Do styles that will allow airflow, will allow you enjoy airflow, whether it's artificial or natural, you know. And if you insist on not stopping the relaxers, you know, stretch your relaxer till this heat wave is over.
Yeah. So, but you know, we respect every religion. So for our brothers and sisters in the Muslim faith who have to have their hair covered, are there recommendations at this point as well?
So for us, when we're talking about healthy hair, we encourage them to use satin or silk. At this time, you may want to consider cotton, because cotton is a bit cooler.
Breathable.
It's breathable, so that would be an option, cotton fabric to cover. It may dry out your hair a bit more, but whenever you get the opportunity to take off your covering, do so. Apart from the heat, when sweat builds up there, it doesn't smell nice either, you know. So cotton covering during this period works, and when you can, take it off so that you can get some air in.
So I did look up, I did look up a few options as to transitioning from perm to natural hair, and there's one that caught my attention, which I would like you to explain. Okay. Because I know you're the expert. Say, plan out your protective styles. What does that mean?
Protective style, some people call it PS, is basically your weaving, your braids, your weave on, those kind of things. Basically, what it does, it limits the amount of manipulation you do to your hair. So when we braid our hair, usually people braid for 4 weeks, 6 weeks. Some champions out there will do 3 months. We do not advocate that, but like I said, some champions out there will do 3 months. So that's protective styling. It's anything that is going to reduce the frequency with which you manipulate or comb or, touch your hair. The challenge with protective styling is people will put in whatever it is, whether it's braids, whatever it, weave and talk, roll and talk, and not do anything to their hair. I've got a protective style on. They will not shampoo, they will not take care of the scalp, they'll not do anything. And that's problematic because it defeats the purpose. So if your hair dries out in a protective style, when you're taking out the style, your hair is on the floor, it's breaking from dryness. Exactly. So even with protective styling, you still have to do protective activities, even with the protective style in. So you would use your protective style when you are, like I said, transitioning, when you are stretching your relaxers, right? So you'll put in your braids for the period of time, you'll take them out, so your new growth would have, you'd have some new growth, you still have the relaxers at the end, which is fine. Then they'll shampoo, deep condition, put in another protective style, and then maybe after a few weeks, take it out, there's more growth, and so on and so on.
So it's progressive.
So it's progressive.
Okay.
The point is, it just depends on how long you want to continue managing two textures. I think that's the most important thing. When you are transitioning, you are handling two textures. You are handling natural hair and underneath, relaxed hair. Exactly. Yeah. Natural hair, new growth underneath, and the relaxed hair at the tips. So the way you handle them is different. So you now have to keep that in mind. Your hairstylist has to keep that in mind. You have to keep it in mind, because we get it a lot. Oh, my relaxed hair is breaking. Yes, it will break if it's not handled properly. And yes, it will break, not as much if it's handled properly. It will come off, So that's why some people are like, I don't even want to go through the stress. I'll just big chop. I will just cut off the relaxed bit and start with my natural hair.
All over again.
Well, I don't have any, so
my choice.
Okay, so we have a template in what you're wearing, which is lovely.
Thank you.
By the way.
Thank you.
For those who have transitioned or who are in the journey of transition and they have thick, stubborn hair, there's a temptation to want to relax just to make it, soft again. Yes, that's the word, texturizer. Is it advisable, or should they just abandon all of the textures and the relaxers completely? But how do they deal with difficult, stubborn hair?
The first question is, what is your goal, right? If you want to be 100%, if you want to have your hair natural for 100%, then you wouldn't use those chemicals to alter the texture. Now, in speaking to the challenge of handling hair that you may feel is challenging to handle, we refrain from using the word stubborn, right? It's challenging to handle. Mostly, in my experience, I find it's because the person doesn't know how. They have wrong information. You are watching YouTube and you see somebody with so much hair, but they just comb right through it, or they just brush right through it, and some of us are just sitting there laughing because that video was 5 hours. They deep conditioned, they did this, did that, so that they can do 1 minute of that section, combing it right through.
Really?
Meanwhile, sorry, maybe I should be a bit more professional because you are in TV. TV is about illusion. It's about presenting a story, So
the way it is, actually. We present.
Yes, you guys, you are good journalists. You will tell us how it is. But for some others in other aspects of TV and media, we are presenting something that may not necessarily be achievable, but we want, like I said when I was here the last time, what's the objective, right? Who is benefiting? You want somebody to desire it enough that they buy something from you. Whether it's the story, whether it's the products, whether it's the service, you want them to desire. So when our clients come in with such challenges, thick hair, have difficulty handling it, the first thing we tell them is, look, You are not going to be taking your comb right through your hair. Just disabuse yourself from that idea. So we're not going to be teaching you how, after some time, you can just comb your hair right through. No, even with relaxed hair, we don't recommend it. We will teach you how to section your hair. We will teach you how to apply products properly so that you can detangle properly with less pain. And the better you get at doing the right thing, the faster you become. The more you practice the right practices and activities and behavior, the faster you'll become in handling it. If you've got thick hair, you will work longer on your hair than somebody who doesn't have thick hair. My hair is long, my hair is a little bit thick. When I'm sitting down there getting my hair done, somebody with shorter hair comes in, hey, and they're out, and maybe I'm still on step 2. Oh dear. Just because it's thick and you know, but that's my reality, and I make plans for it.
Now, it would be remiss of us not to ask some of the questions that came from your last appearance. Some people were, you know, really asking about how to deal with alopecia. I want you to address that.
Okay, yeah. So there are different types of alopecia. The one that we see commonly is the traction alopecia, which is caused by which is really caused by tension over a period of time on certain parts of your hair, mostly the front, you know. So yes, so alopecia is really just hair loss, really. Some happen because of hormones and different things, but traction is it's caused mechanically, so it's caused by handling, which a friend of mine who is a trichologist says that's a good thing, because it means you can also use handling to either manage it, prevent it, or restore your hairline. So, like I said, the most common one we see is traction alopecia, which usually happens front or edges from tight styles, tight braids, and sometimes placing either wigs or caps or things on the hairline. So after a period of time, it begins to recede, pulls out and stuff like that. So the first thing to do is to stop whatever it is that is causing it. So if it's tight braids, you need to stop the tight braids. I said tight braids. Usually I would say braids. Hey, I have to braid my hair. There's nothing I can do. So stop the tight braids. The other thing is to space it. So you are braiding your hair, you must braid your hair. Oh, I'm a student, or I travel, whatever. Space it. So you braid for a period of time, you give yourself some space before you reinstall the braids again. The other thing that you should do, of course, is you can get a product that's hair restoring. But if you are depending on the product that's hair restoring alone and you're not changing your practices, you are just putting 1 foot forward, 10 feet back. Steps back, and you're not going to gain anything. Right. So that we also encourage like your deep conditioning as well. A lot of us dismiss or don't know about it, but deep conditioning also helps, because the heat also helps to stimulate the follicles there, so long as the follicles are not dead. That's the thing. So if the patch is smooth, if it's smooth like the skin on your forehead, it might be your follicles there might be dead, which means there may be there may be nothing that can be done apart from hair transplant. But if your follicles are still there, which you will tell, if you can see even tiny, small strands of hair, then your follicles are still okay. So you can deep condition. The heat helps to stimulate blood flow. Even massaging as well, lightly.
That can help.
That can help. But if you go too firmly, too frequently, it's still going to cause traction.
We can go on and on talking about hair, because hair is really important. In case you're wondering who a trichologist is, essentially trichologists are people who specialize in the care of your hair, scalp, and treatment of conditions that come with it. So you see, we learn things every day.
Every day, right?
We have to thank you so much. I just wanted to quickly ask, 30 seconds, for men.
Okay.
Do you comb your hair this way or this way?
For those who have hair.
I didn't laugh, they laughed. So,
and I did too.
She did, I didn't laugh. So is it this way?
30
or
seconds.
This way?
Or this way?
Or this, or up.
Yeah, how?
Anyway is fine. Really, anyway is fine. But if you are receding this way, if your recession is here, then comb forward, not backwards, right? If your recession is in the middle, don't split your combing to half and half.
Oh, so just come from
just
the back.
come right from the back to the front. Yes.
Interesting.
Yes.
Okay.
And then if
Yeah, go ahead.
No, say it now. We're
totally out of time.
Ladies first. I'm done.
We're totally out of time.
I just wanted to ask, on behalf of ladies
totally
like us who don't have volume as you do, as the ship sailed on us getting this kind of volume?
No. We have clients who come in all the time who struggle with volume, and we just adjust their practices, their styling, and they see improvement.
So what we'll do is continue this conversation afterwards, because we don't have much volume.
We don't have any more time.
Yes.
Well.
Nice.
Yes. Almost Ogurumbi, we'd like to thank you so much. All Naturals. Always great to have this conversation with you. And we never seem to have time. There's hair loss now, there's time loss. But we have to run.
We're looking forward to that time when we have her back and you'll be doing some styling.
And maybe you come with somebody that has to help us with the beards. Those who have beards who don't have hair.
Guys, we gotta run, guys.
We have you.
It's been an amazing show today. Thank you so much for being a part of it. I'm Kayode Okikelu.
Yeah, we'll be back again tomorrow. Thank you for being our company today. A beloved one at that. I'm Bukola Koka.
Let's see you again tomorrow. Thank you for watching. I'm Jeffrey Uzama.